Perhaps now you can give us some details into how you do the transition in terms of feeding, the types of feeds you use, perhaps for the different birds, up to the point now they are laying, and how exactly do you feed them to make sure that you're getting optimum production and making sure that there is uniformity so that you get value for money.
Thank you, Daktari. Now we have seen how we need to take care of the young ones. That is the first 3 weeks. That goes on up to now around eight weeks, because then from there we are transitioning on feeding. Because from day 0 to around 8 weeks, we have been giving chick mash. We give chick mash for 8 weeks, and then from there we transition to growers. Growers now it will feed growers until the point of lay. Usually the point of lay we say is around 18 weeks for well taken care of chicks. But if you maybe there are some things that went long at brooding, then you might find that time extends. It extends maybe up to around 20 weeks. But majorly is supposed to start from 18 weeks. That is the point of lay. When you talk of point of lay, it is 18 weeks. So whenever you are doing any transition for feeding, we say it is a stressful event for the bird. So whenever you are doing transition from the chick to the grower's mash, you have to do it gradually. You don't wake up today and then tomorrow you are giving growers. You have to do it gradually. Usually we say like 3-4 days. So you start with maybe 75 of the chick mash, then 25 of growers. The following day you do 50-50. The other day you do 75, and the other one 25. Then up to the time you transition completely to growers. During that time also we said, because you'll be affecting also the balance that we talked about, the gut or the digestive system. You have to ensure that during that time you supplement with Vigolex, as we said, because to maintain that transition. The other thing also, we are saying that it is a stressful event. So you have also to give like something like anti-stress, an appetizer. That's time in now we bring in Solvita, because Solvita is the product that I've been using, the product that is giving me performance. So the key thing that you need to ensure you have before even the birds lay is the uniformity. That those birds, you took them the same day, that you lay them up to the point of lay when they are still uniform. That means the weight and the body size, they are going on uniform. And we say the various aspects that you need to check so that you ensure that you have uniformity. I talked of spacing. I talked of having the right equipment and being enough. So those things will ensure that you have uniformity for the birds. Because you don't want the birds to arrive at 18 weeks point of lay, then you get 10, they are laying in a flock of 1,000, then the rest will catch up a month later. Because when you see that issue, then you start knowing that you had an issue with uniformity. You lost somewhere along the way. So the growing period, that is the grower period from the chick to the grower to the laying point. The key thing there only to maintain is the birds are growing well. There is the weight, depending with the weight, the standard. Monitor your weights. Because one thing that will help you know whether you are on the right track is the weight. You have to monitor your weights from day one or along up to the point of lay so that you can see the progress. You have to see the progress. You can't just say with your eyes the birds are growing and you can't know the weight. The other thing is to ensure that you are feeding quality feeds because that is where now we have the big issue. The quality has to be there for the chicks, for the growers, and for the layers. Now we transition now from growers to layers. And there I said that for our case we do it when we are 5% production. That is the time we start transitioning. We start changing feeds from growers to layers on a gradual process. 3-4 days, then we are there. So when the birds start laying, now there are two things that they are very important. Number one is the peak production, because they will start laying maybe 2 or 3 birds, but then there is a time we say they are peak. Peak meaning above 95% birds are laying. So that time can be shorter, can be longer, depending on how you manage those birds. And number one, we have said that the transitioning. If you don't give your birds a soft transition, that means your birds will even take longer to peak. because usually we say the peak period can run from 3 to 6 weeks. So the area depends with how you manage them. So peak production is number one. The other thing that you have to be very careful is the production, because now these birds is the time now they are giving you back your money, your investment is the time they are giving you back. So that means that you have to be very careful the production is not affected. You have to ensure that the birds, whenever they peak, you have to maintain that peak for a period of time so that you can get a return on investment. But if they start now laying and then they are not laying the right percentage, you'll have issues. You end up even closing down the farm because you can't get any profit. So the laying period is very critical, and the farmer has to be very careful during the laying period. Why do I say so? There are so many stresses that come that will affect production on a daily basis. Number one is how you are feeding them. If you program your birds, you are feeding them 6 in the morning. If you just alter that time, you start feeding now 8, you are not consistent, it will have to affect your productivity. If, for example, you miss to give water, enough water, you can see the water is running throughout. So the bird feed on the water, it is ad libitum. That means whenever the bird feels like taking water, the water is there, it's available. So because if the bird lacks water, even an hour, it will affect your productivity. And also affect the size of the eggs because the big percentage of the eggs is the water. Another thing that may affect is the feed. We said feed is very critical. You have to get feeds from a reputable company, feeds that will help your birds to perform well. The other stress you might find during this time is the heat stress. In areas whereby we have a lot of heat, the temperatures are high. If your house is not well ventilated, there will be a lot of heat stress, which will affect the production of your birds. Another thing that might affect productivity during this time is on the quantities that you are giving your birds. They have to get the right quantities so that they get the right nutrients for that day. So then, having the right feed, having the right management for these birds, then we give now the bird now its work now to start laying for us the eggs. Now, for us to maintain that peak production, to maintain production, as I said, it is a huge struggle for farmers because if it's a struggle, that bird has to maintain so that you can get profits. Else, you go on loss. So then what do we do? At Yetuto Poultry Farm, what we do, we ensure that even after giving our feeds that are complete, they are well formulated, remember there are losses of nutrients along the GIT system, along the digestive system. So in one way or another, there will be some losses of these nutrients that you are giving to these birds. So then what do you do? A farmer, nowadays you can't live without supplementation. That is where now we bring in supplementation. So what is this supplementation? Supplementation is just giving something additional, not just relying on feeds. The feeds are well formulated, yes, but then there are some losses that you can't control. So then that's where supplementation comes in. What do you supplement and how do you supplement? Whenever you are supplementing, so number one, you have to ensure that whatever you are supplementing, remember now we are getting eggs. This is now for human consumption. And our customers nowadays, the consumers, they are very conscious of whatever they are taking. So you don't want to supplement on something that is not safe for human consumption. That means you cannot give a supplement that has an antibiotic inside that supplement, because now the eggs will be having residues for these antimicrobials or these antibiotics. So you ensure that you use the right supplements. I will take you through the supplements I've been using. And then these supplements, not a must you give them on a whole day, 24 hours. You can say 4 hours are enough. During the day, maybe morning hours, supplement 4 hours, and then you are good. And it is very economical to supplement the birds, because you prevent so many losses that might come with failure to supplement. So you supplement, it is cheaper. That's where some people go wrong. They don't want to supplement. Supplementation, you cannot do without supplementation. How do you supplement? We are saying like 4 hours in a day. And then also we are saying that this supplement must be safe for human consumption. So as Getuto Poultry Farm, there are products that we have been using for supplementation. And one of them is Solvita. Solvita is a 4-in-1 solution to the farmer. Why do I say it's a 4-in-1 solution? Number one, it has what we call the amino acids. Amino acids, 2 critical one in poultry, that is lysine and methionine, you have to supplement. Even whenever you are doing a feed formulation, you have to ensure that you have the right amounts of methionine and lysine. Why do you ensure they are there? Because methionine will be responsible for what we are calling what? The egg sizes. And then lysine will be responsible for what we are calling what? The numbers. So productivity and even the egg of the size of the egg, you have to give those amino acids. Yes, the feeds has the amino acids, but because of various reasons, some were lost. So now we are coming in to supplement. So methionine and lysine are very critical in laying birds for the sizes and even for productivity and to minimize those stresses. Number 2, that is in Solvita, these are vitamins. Vitamins, we are saying that these birds are almost faced with stresses almost on a daily basis. They just see a bird flying over, they become stressed. They see maybe a rodent, if they are not properly controlled, dashing, and then they get stressed. So those stresses, you have to minimize them by using Solvita. Another thing that is in Solvita is what we call the energy. These birds need a lot of energy to produce eggs and even to push those eggs. So it has to be there. So those are the things that we are saying that are composed inside Solvita. So I can't do without Solvita because I've seen good results. How do you then supplement? We are saying that supplementation, don't wait your birds to lose production so that you start supplementing. Already you have started losing. So the best strategy is I myself, I do it. After every 2 weeks, I have to supplement. And my number one thing for product for supplementation is Solvita. I supplement like 5 days, 4 hours in the morning, every day. And then I will maintain my production and my exercises are quite okay. And then the numbers are there. The other thing is what we call, there is also consumer, what the consumer wants to see or even to taste. So the other thing that we ensure is that the eggs that comes from our farm, they have what we call the yolk. The yolk is very critical whenever even you are selling and even whenever you are consuming the egg. So the egg have to have what we call a very nice yellow yolk. So a yellow yolk is a very nice, the consumers love it. So by supplementing with the Solvita, it ensures that the product is there, the human is okay because the product is safe for human consumption. So we use even Solvita to ensure that our yolk are quite okay and the eggs are of good sizes. The other thing also, whenever we are supplementing, we said that a liver is very vital for the bird and especially for the producing bird. So the liver, as we said, has so many threats, one of them being mycotoxins, aflatoxin being the major one. So whenever I'm doing supplementation, I do it after every 2 weeks. I supplement with Vigorex to ensure that the liver of that bird is functioning well, because liver also acts as a storage. It's also as a storage for maybe vitamins, and also it also helps in so many other things. So I have to ensure that the liver for these birds is functioning well by providing or by supplementing with Vigorex. So Vigorex plus Solvita, I do it twice in a month. So after every 2 weeks, I have to do it. After every 2 weeks, I have to do it. And I've said that it is very economical to supplement than waiting the birds to be exposed to all these stresses that will affect your production. The other product I usually substitute once in a while with Solvita is what we call the Vigo Boost layers. The Vigo Boost layers also is well formulated to ensure that the egg sizes are okay, to ensure that we have that yellow yolk, and to ensure that the birds are laying the light percentages. Because if the birds lay low percentages, then you are losing and you end up closing the farm. Another thing I talked about is on efficiency, or what we call the feed conversion. Feed conversion is very important, especially on these laying birds. What does that mean? It means that these birds, we want to feed them less to give us eggs. Because usually the range for feeding we do from 120 up to around 140 grams per day per bird. But with a good digestive system, for our case we are doing 120 grams per day per bird, and we are getting good results as somebody who is giving 140 grams per day. If you just do mathematics of like 20 grams per bird per day, and you have a flock of like 1,000 and 20 grams, that means those are 2 kilos. Those are 2 kilos, that is 20 grams in 1,000. Those are already 20 kgs. So on a daily basis, I'm able to save on 20 kgs. Now that even before I get the profits from the eggs, I'm able to save because my birds are feeding small quantities and they are giving me the results. So you don't have to feed up to 140 if you are and 120, you are getting the same production. So efficiency on the digestive system is very critical. That's why I can't afford to do without Vigolex and Solvita for that digestive system to be working maximally. The other thing I have to ensure is well taken care of the other losses that come after laying. Which are these losses? One of them, you find these birds, yes, they will lay, but the quality of the eggs that they start laying. Quality in which sense? Number one is the shell. You might find the eggs that are being laid, they are shellless, or they have the shell is not firm, it is thin. That means you have a lot of wastages when it comes to breakages. So because one egg will knock another one and then you get a breakage. And you know these are birds, so what will happen if one egg touches another one and then there is breakage? Of course they will start eating. So they will eat that egg, and over time they will develop that vice. So they will start developing the vice of eating the eggs. So number one, the shell, you have to ensure that the shells are very strong, that you are not getting breakages. Another issue that may come along is that the birds, when they are laying, we say that this process also requires a lot of energy, requires a lot of pushing. So if the birds have no properly developed pelvis, what will happen? They will push. Whenever they are pushing the egg, they will push together, the egg will come out, and then the reproductive system will also come out. So what we call the prolapse. So you'll have so many issues with the prolapse because the pelvis is strong or not properly developed. So that is another problem that the farmer might face. Another challenge that comes is that you'll find some birds in the ring nests or the ring boxes. If you have them, they will pretend like they are not laying. But in real sense, these birds are not laying. So they are having what we call the egg bound inside. So they cannot lay. And the main reason why you see all these issues coming out is what we call calcium. Calcium is the key thing that makes these birds, even they will start pecking one another, and if that proceeds, continues for some time, they will even start cannibalism. That's how cannibalism comes about. You get maybe there is insufficient calcium in feeds, or maybe due to other losses, as I mentioned. So they will start looking for other sources. And the only source they can find is the neighbor or the next person. So they will start pecking one another, and then they will continue even with the cannibalism. So calcium also is very important when it comes to laying, because even less calcium will even have less eggs. So then what do? We always ensure that every month, if I give a breakdown on how calcium is used in the body, for every egg laid, the eggshell, the composition, if you do your mathematics well, you'll find that for every egg laid, it has like 5 to 6 grams of calcium. That means every day the bird is losing a lot of calcium. This calcium the bird is supposed to get from the feeds. And the one that we get from the feed, let's say maybe the birds get 3 grams of calcium from the feeds. That means there is a deficit of like 2 or 3 grams. So that continues for 1 week, for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks. In a month, that bird will have lost so many calcium, and that calcium usually comes from the reservoirs where it is stored, and it's stored in bones. So you'll start finding that even the bird can become lame. You'll find soft bones. You even find cases of prolapse. Sometimes they come because the pelvis is weak, so it's not able to support that force in which the egg is being pulled out. So whenever you have those issues, calcium should be number one. So for us, we usually ensure that after every month, we have to do a calcium supplementation. And we said that for us, we ensure that we give Hardex. Hardex every month. We have to supplement with Hardex for 5 days. So every end of the month, we have to do 5 days of Hardex, every day 4 hours. Hardex is good because it has high levels of calcium and phosphorus, and also very rich with vitamin D3, because vitamin D3 plays a very critical role in absorption of calcium. And also Hardex also has high levels of energy, because as I said, for layers, they need high levels of energy for production and to maintain that production, and even the sizes of the eggs. So you can't do without Hardex for a month, because we said for every egg that is laid, there is loss of like 3 grams that comes from the reserves, body reserves, which is the bones. So over time, then you find the reserves are depleted, you need to replenish. That's why you do Hardex, just to replenish all those losses, and to ensure that you have a very nice egg. You can see the color of the egg is very nice. You can see even the shell, it's very firm, so you don't get breakages. Because we say that one of the losses the farmers will incur is on the breakages. So many eggs will die or will break. And if you count the costs of the price of those broken eggs, you'll find is a lot of money, which should be in your pocket, but now you are losing. So we ensure that we give Hardex every month, 5 days, so that the eggs are good. So you see this egg is very nice now for human consumption, is antibiotic free. And because I want, as we open it, you'll see how the color or the yolk is. We have a very nice eggs, and they are very tasty because of what we feed our birds is well formulated feeds. And we get very good feedback from our customers, our consumers, on the quality of the eggs that we supply to the market. So, karibu sana.